Imagine for a second that uh, the universe itself, like the actual cosmic powers that dictate reality, ordered you to bind your very soul to the exact thing you swore to avoid forever.
Right, and not just like a gentle nudge or a suggestion, an inescapable command.
Yeah, exactly. A literal mandate.
And, for a being who has spent centuries meticulously building an entire existence around avoiding emotional vulnerability, a command like that isn't just an inconvenience, it is a death sentence to their identity.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the world of Demon's Destiny by Valerie Twombly.
Yeah, which is the fourth book in the Guardian series, right?
Right, and it plunges you into this epic, sprawling, supernatural universe.
Yeah.
The overarching lore here revolves around these immortal vampire warriors, the Guardians, who are constantly fighting off a curse of madness.
Searching for fated mates to tether them, basically.
Exactly, and battling cosmic threats. But today, we are zooming in on a very specific, very intimate thread in this massive tapestry.
We're looking at Hades' most powerful demon, a half-fae queen, and that really messy gap between destiny and choice.
Because on the surface, you have a story packed with mythic, world-ending stakes.
Oh, absolutely. But beneath all the magic and the divine politics, this narrative is, it's an incredibly grounded look at trauma.
Yeah.
It explores one man who has sworn off love, one woman who has every reason in the world not to trust a single living soul, and how they navigate being forced together.
Let's set the stage, because to understand why this forced pairing is so devastating, we have to look at the heavy, heavy armor our hero wears.
We really
The backdrop of this universe is currently dire. We've got this overarching villain, Lowen. He is Hades' power-hungry demigod grandson.
Right, and Lowen is orchestrating human sacrifices across the globe.
Yeah, and worse, he has unleashed a magical virus that is actively wiping out the Fae race. So the world is quite literally burning.
And into this massive mess steps Ball.
Yes, Baal.
Yeah.
He is Hades' right-hand demon, his top enforcer. And on the surface, the guy is living the absolute dream.
Oh, totally. I mean, he runs a high-end Vegas casino called Dragon's Cove.
Yeah, he is cocky, he's a massive womanizer, and he deflects absolutely every serious moment with this sharp, crackling wit.
He performs effortless charm flawlessly, like he's the guy cracking a joke while decapitating monsters.
Right. But let me jump in right there, because Baal's effortless charm isn't an actual personality.
No, not at all.
It's basically a bulletproof vest disguised as a tuxedo. It passes for a personality, but it's really just high-end armor.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
I mean, he explicitly only sleeps with immortal women because they don't want attachments. No strings, no risk. Does Baal even remember who he is underneath all that deflection?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the womanizing isn't about appetite or hedonism at all. No, it's entirely about risk management, because centuries ago, Baal actually did the vulnerable thing. He dropped the armor.
And what happened?
He fell deeply in love with a human named Beth, but Beth tragically took her own life with poison.
Oh, wow. That is awful.
It is. And here's the truly brutal part. Bel went to Zarek, the king of the gods, and begged him to intervene.
To save her.
Yes, Zarek had the power to do it with a literal wave of his hand. But Zarek refused.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he forced Bel to stand there and watch the woman he loved die in his arms.
That is just chilling. To possess the power to stop someone's agony and just fold your arms and say no.
It's horrifying.
Zarek is playing a terrifying game with people's lives.
He is, but Zarek's logic, as twisted as it is, was deeply calculating. He didn't do it just for sport.
Okay, why then?
He explicitly let Beth die to forge Baal's iron will. Zarek knew that specific lesson, the unimaginable agony of loving a mortal and losing her, would turn Baal into a fiercely protective, rebellious warrior who would never bend.
Oh, so it was basically divine manipulation.
Exactly. And it worked. Baal vowed that day to never let anyone close enough to hurt him again.
So when you hear him bantering and throwing out sarcastic remarks in the present day, you aren't hearing a lighthearted character.
Not at all. You are listening to the sound of a very deep, centuries-old wound trying to protect itself.
Which brings us to the absolute worst possible person for him to crash into.
Oh, yeah.
A woman whose own ability to trust has just been violently shattered into a million tiny pieces. Let's talk about Renata.
Her story is so intense.
It really is. Put yourself in her shoes for a moment. In a single evening, her entire reality collapses. Her younger sister, Raven, goes missing.
And we find out later she's been taken by Lowen's forces.
Right, but Renata doesn't know that yet. She's just terrified. So she closes up the dive bar she works at, walks to her car in the dark, and is attacked by Clive.
And Clive isn't some random mugger in an alley.
No.
He's her sister's bad news boyfriend.
Right.
This is a domestic betrayal.
Exactly. Someone she knows, someone who has been in her home, is suddenly trying to end her life.
It's just terrifying.
She manages to fight him off and sprints into the woods. She is panicked, bleeding, and who does she find? Father Ryan, her local priest.
Oh, this part is just brutal.
You can practically hear her sigh of relief. You finally find a priest, someone you're culturally conditioned to trust implicitly. She thinks she has found sanctuary.
But what does Father Ryan do?
He pulls out a syringe, injects her with a tranquilizer, and hands her over to a literal cult of devil worshippers for a human sacrifice.
The psychological whiplash there is staggering.
It's insane.
Think about the mechanics of trust for a second. Every single human she reaches out to, first a family connection in Clive, and then a literal representative of the divine and the priest, utterly betrays her.
And not just betrays her by looking the other way, they actively participate in trying to destroy her.
Right. So we find her tied to a cold stone altar in a white gown. There's a black sack over her head. The smell of incense is in the air. People are chanting in Latin.
She is completely helpless. And here's where it gets really interesting. The cavern doors blow open.
Yes.
Who comes to save her? It's Baal. And he's brought back up Marcus, one of those immortal vampire guardians we mentioned earlier.
But Baal doesn't swoop in looking like a smooth Vegas casino owner, does he?
No, not at all. To scatter the cultists, he shifts into his terrifying true demon form. We're talking 7 feet tall, thick black skin, glowing red eyes, massive horns, and giant fangs.
He looks like an absolute nightmare.
Exactly. Renata rips the hood off and sees a literal monster covered in the blood of her captors. Yet this literal demon from hell is the only one in the entire scenario actually telling her the truth.
It's such a brilliant thematic subversion.
It really is.
The narrative forces Renata, and by extension, you as the listener, to realize that sometimes the most dangerous-looking thing in the room is the only one you can rely on.
Wow.
The safe spaces, the familiar faces, the church. Those were the traps. The monster is the sanctuary.
And this psychological upheaval is compounded when she is brought to the underworld, and Hades reveals that Renata's entire human life was a lie.
Talk about dropping a massive existential bomb on her while she is still physically recovering from almost being sacrificed on an altar.
Right. Hades explains that she's actually the daughter of Iris, the Fae Queen.
And her mother artificially inseminated herself with human DNA years ago, so her daughters would be immune to the magical virus currently wiping out the Fae race.
So Renata carries the cure in her very blood.
Exactly. In the span of a few hours, she goes from a small-town bartender to supernatural royalty, holding the key to saving a dying race.
Which obviously makes her the #1 target for Lowen's forces.
Oh, absolutely.
Now we hit the central tension of the entire deep dive. Because alongside all of this, Hades issues a decree. Renata has to mate with the demon who just saved her.
The timing is just impeccable.
Right. Hades wants a political ambassador between the demons and the Fae. And secretly, he owes her mother Iris a favor because they used to be in love.
It's a massive political and personal entanglement.
It really is.
Yeah.
But the rule of this universe is ironclad mating bonds chosen by the gods cannot be refused. They can only be delayed.
And this is the ultimate cruelty for Baal. Here is a man who literally rebuilt his entire psychological foundation around the promise of never being emotionally vulnerable again. And the universe commands him to bind his soul to a half-mortal woman.
He agrees to the bond because he has no other choice, but he draws a hard line in the sand.
What does he do?
He vows to himself and to Hades that he will never love her. He basically says, I will do the duty, I will physically protect her, but my heart stays locked in the vault.
Right, but let's look at Renata's side of this, because it would be so easy for the story to make her a passive victim, just handed from a cult to a demon to a god.
Oh, totally.
But she refuses to play that role, and that is where her agency takes center stage.
She doesn't just blindly accept her supernatural destiny, does she?
Not at all. She agrees to the mating bond with Baal, not because Hades demands it, but because she realizes she needs a terrifying, powerful ally to hunt down her missing sister, Raven.
I love that. She weaponizes her own forced destiny.
She essentially says, fine, you want me to be a queen, you want me to bind myself to a demon, I'll do it, but I'm using his teeth and his claws to get my family back.
Okay, let's unpack this core tension between command and choice.
Yeah.
Because this is the big question I have about this entire fated mates concept.
Okay, lay it on me.
If the universe is forcing them together, if there is a literal magical mandate saying you two are soulmates, at what point does fate stop being the actual reason they connect and just become a convenient excuse for two terrified people to finally drop their walls?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, Baal tells himself he's just following orders. But Hades didn't order him to go into the woods and fight rogue demons for her before the bond was even sealed.
No, he didn't. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that is the psychological brilliance of the story.
Right.
The gods provided the proximity, the gods locked the door, but the gods did not script Baal's individual choices.
So fate simply becomes the excuse.
Exactly. It allows Baal to bypass his own strict internal rules. He can tell himself, well, I have to protect her, it's a divine mandate. But his actions betray the fact that he's actively choosing her.
I mean, look at what he does to Clive.
Oh my gosh, Clive.
Baal doesn't just let the parking lot attack on Renata slide as human collateral damage.
Yeah.
Baal tracks Clive down, beats him, and personally drags him through a dimensional portal directly to the throne room of Hades.
Yeah, he hands him right over to the Lord of the Underworld.
Now, explain how underworld justice works here, because it is brutal.
Underworld justice in this lore is poetic and eternal. Hades sews Clive's mouth shut, silencing the man who used lies to manipulate,
Yike.
and then sends him to an eternity in a purgatory dimension where lesser demons will feast on his flesh.
Wow. And Baal didn't have to orchestrate that to fulfill a mating bond.
Not at all. That wasn't duty. That was profoundly personal vengeance for Renata's trauma.
Which brings us to the ultimate proof that his armor is crumbling, what he does with Zarek.
This part gets me every time.
So Renata is grieving. She just found out she's Fae royalty, but she also learns her mother, Iris, has been murdered.
It's just blow after blow for her.
It is. So Baal secretly goes back to Zarek, the very same god who let Beth die, the god he hates more than anyone in the cosmos, and asks for a favor.
Which is huge for him.
Right. He asks Zarek to open a magical rift so Renata can speak with her deceased mother's spirit for just 1 hour of closure.
And gods in this universe do not deal in favors, you know. They deal in painful transactions.
What does Zarek demand?
Well, to understand the stakes, you have to understand the mechanics of demonic power. A demon's magic is their internal fire, their lifeblood.
Okay.
Zarek demands that Baal surrender all of his demonic powers. He rips that internal fire out of him, leaving Baal effectively mortal, and strands him in a freezing, icy wasteland of a torture dimension to suffer for the duration of the spell.
And Baal accepts this agony without a second thought.
He really does.
He takes the torture so the woman he swore never to love can have a conversation with a ghost. It's an incredible sacrifice.
It's mad.
But this beautifully sets up the massive reversal of power in the story. Because Renata is in this ethereal courtyard, having a beautiful, tearful reunion with her mother's spirit.
Right.
And Iris casually mentions, you know he loved you, Race. He is currently being tortured in a freezing hellscape by Zarek just to buy you this time.
I love Renata's reaction here. It's a masterclass in character evolution.
Tell me about it.
Remember, she has just spent a day learning she possesses Fae magic. She barely understands the mechanics of her own power.
Right, she's brand new to this.
But the instant she realizes the man who saved her is suffering because of her, something inside her completely snaps.
She goes nuclear.
She really does?
She uses her raw, untested Fae magic to rip open a dimensional portal straight into the god realm. She tracks down Zarek again, the king of the gods, the entity who dictates reality and demands her mate back.
And Zarek just laughs in her face.
Of course he does.
He essentially dismisses her as a puny, fragile female.
So what does she do? She taps into the ambient magic in the divine realm, forms a kinetic shield, and blasts the king of the gods backward with a massive shockwave of fire.
It's amazing.
And she literally fights a god on her first day of doing magic.
It is a breathtakingly triumphant moment. The mechanics of her Fae magic are tied to emotion and intent, and her intent to protect Baal just completely overrides Zarek's arrogance.
And she actually forces Zarek to return a frozen, half-dead Baal to her.
Yeah, and she drops to her knees to wrap her body around his, warming him with her own life force.
Wow.
This solidifies their bond in a way no mandate ever could. The dynamic completely shifts.
It's no longer just a powerful ancient demon protecting a fragile human.
Exactly. It is a Fae queen violently protecting her mate. The protection is no longer a one-way street.
Hades and Zarek thought they were so incredibly smart, pulling all the strings from above, maneuvering these pieces on a cosmic chessboard.
They really thought they had it all figured out.
But by pushing these two fractured people together, they accidentally forged a power couple that will not bow to anyone. They built a weapon against their own authority.
It highlights the thematic core of the narrative perfectly.
How so?
Well, the gods chose Renata to mate with Bao specifically because they knew her tragic human vulnerability was the only thing that could bypass his emotional armor.
Right.
But what they failed to anticipate is that by breaking him open, she actually made him whole again. She forced him to remember what it was like to care enough to risk the pain of loss.
And she needed him just as much. Not just for physical protection against Lowen's armies, but to learn that genuine trust is actually possible after experiencing utter betrayal.
Exactly. They heal each other.
Now, Renata and Baal have found their footing, but their personal victory doesn't stop the overarching threat.
No, the world is still burning.
Lowen is still out there. Raven, Renata's sister, is still trapped. And heartbreakingly, Raven actually refuses a rescue attempt.
Yeah, she chooses to stay behind in Lowen's stronghold to act as a spy and protect Renata from his wrath.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the rest of the series. The war is escalating.
We even get a brilliant tease for the next installment.
Oh, right, the one with Lucan.
Yes. Another guardian, Lucan, a dark, brooding warrior who controls shadows, breaks into Lowen's prison.
And he goes in to rescue a fae, right?
Right. But he ends up hearing the telepathic voice of a female prisoner in his head. And that prisoner turns out to be Sabin, Lowen's own sister, who is destined to be Lucan's fated mate.
Talk about enemies to lovers and forced proximity.
It's going to be so good.
But bringing it all back to Baal and Renata, what Demon's Destiny does so exceptionally well is use these massive fantasy tropes. Vampires, demons, gods, magical viruses to explore incredibly human experiences.
It uses the extreme to make the mundane visible.
Exactly. We don't have literal gods ordering us around, but we all wear armor. We all have those deflections, those sarcastic jokes we use to keep people safely at arm's length.
Precisely. It challenges you to consider the actual value of vulnerability. Bal thought his strength was his isolation. He thought Zarek's cruel lessons centuries ago made him invincible. But his true strengths, his actual power, only unlocked when he was willing to freeze in the dark for someone else.
So think about the curses or fakes in your own life for a second. Those situations you feel utterly forced into a sudden job change, a move across the country, an unavoidable confrontation with someone you care about.
The things you feel you have no control over.
Right. If you look closely at that unyielding mandate, is it actually stripping away your choices? Or is it just giving you the ultimate ironclad excuse to finally drop the armor and do the terrifying thing you secretly wanted to do all along?
Sometimes we need the universe to push us into a corner and give us no choice, just so we can finally choose the connection we actually need to survive.
Because sometimes the jagged white line on the X-ray isn't a break at all. Sometimes it's just the exact place where the heavy armor finally cracked, letting the light in. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious.